I'm Ren, and this is Grunge Granny. I wanted to go ahead and make an intro for this video because it's about my first 5 months of bullet journaling. I had never bullet journaled before. I had tried to in the past, but I just wasn't very good about figuring out how to utilize the spreads or exactly what I wanted to do, which is why I wanted to go ahead and make this video. Realized that if I explained it to people in the ways that it was helpful for me. Now, one of the reasons I started was because I felt like I was having a lot of repeated cycles, just kind of constantly. That I was always either cycling with depression or overworking. I've also been passing kidney stones. And I would think that my water intake was good or that my rest was good, but then realize that I don't actually have an indicator. Like, I don't know for sure what day I went to bed and when I woke up and how many hours of sleep I was actually getting, along with how many ounces of water I was actually getting. Originally, it started as a way for me to be able to track that. And as I started tracking that, it made me realize other things. For my weekly spreads, I was sticking to the prompts from the 5-minute journal. If you've ever heard of it, you can just find it online, but it's also an app if you want to just do it on your phone. But you wake up in the morning and you say 3 things that you're grateful for, a way that you're going to make today great. At the end of the day, 3 amazing things that happen and how you're going to make tomorrow better. And then I think there's a part of it where it's like an affirmation, but I can't remember if that's morning or evening. I was originally putting all that information into my weekly spreads, and then I realized that I needed my 3 amazing things all together, and then I needed my morning gratitude altogether. But on the 22nd, this morning, I opened up my planner and I could see 21 previous mornings and all the things that were really lovely on those mornings. And that really helps me cultivate my sense of gratitude, and it's something I'm really working on because I think that I am prone to worry, or I am prone to invalidating my own blessings as maybe something that I need to look at with caution versus just accepting it with gratitude. I do feel like these last 5 months, bullet journaling has helped me so much. Not only did it help me regulate my water and my sleep, but then it showed me what areas of my life I really needed to modify and get real with myself about. There was a period of time where I would stop bullet journaling because I felt so much better, and then I told my neighbor that I was treating bullet journaling the way some people treat medication, where they feel better because they're on the medication, and then they stop taking the medication, and then they feel bad again because they don't realize that they're feeling better because of the medication. One of the more beneficial parts of bullet journaling was not just the bullet journal itself, but was the fact that I was taking the time every single morning to track something and write something down, and then taking time in the evening to do the same. It made me more conscious of my sleep and my water. It brought that to more of the foreground of my attention, whereas it was something that was more passive in the background. I knew that I needed to dedicate more focus to it. I think that in the past, or when I started, that was one of the bigger struggles was, but I don't have time to do everything because now I have to set up time to bullet journal, or I don't have time to bullet journal. And the fact that I would be telling myself, oh, I don't have time to what? Take 5 minutes to literally X out some boxes to say that I slept for 5 hours and drank 2 jars of water. Like, I don't have that much time. Then that's a different problem. And it's a problem that I should fix. It made me get more real with myself, where it was wow, what is this? What is this tendency to automatically just disregard anything that is meant to better myself? And when I started to realize that, I started to give it more time and attention again, and just, again, redirecting my focus to it and saying, no, this is something I need to do. I need to do this because I need to know how much water I'm drinking. I don't know how much water I'm drinking. I need to know how much sleep I'm getting. I noticed that I would start a project, I would be really, really good about my habits and feel consistent. And then all of a sudden, I would just start piling on more and more, until I would kind of spiral into this depression and anxiety and end up in some mode of hyperfixation where I would have completely neglected myself and my needs. And then I would be back at square one, where I would say, okay, it's time to reset. But this would happen a lot. Every single month, actually. Yeah. So what was good about this was that by May, because really it was June where I was like, yeah, let's just stop repeating this pattern. By the time it got to May, I had gone already to New Orleans to visit my birth mother and had taken kind of a break away from Arkansas. I finally got out of my house for a second, and I came home and went through a mad declutter. And it still looks crazy. We just do have a small space. That was just a really interesting part of it, was seeing how much I was really not actively consuming or bringing in, and yet still have so much. Well, my partner's home now, and so I'm gonna have to close this intro out so that there's not a lot of interruptions. I do want to flip through and talk about how seeing that pattern for the first 3 months made me get real with myself and stop repeating it. Instead, I just made sure that if I prioritized my sleep and my water, then it meant that I wouldn't get into that state of hyperfixation and overworking. Then prioritizing sleep ended up being a way that I knew I could not hyperfixate on something, and it meant that certain things just had to be done within a certain amount of time. If I decided that sleep was number one, then I had to adhere to that. In every single one of my monthly spreads, whenever we flip from the cover page, you'll see that the very first trackers I put in are water and sleep, because I know for myself, as soon as I start to neglect one of them, I very quickly spiral. I also know that at the end of this year, whenever I start my 2022 bullet journal, I think in the future I don't want to do a mid-year setup or a beginning of the year setup. I think I want a separate notebook altogether that'll just be for all of the yearly things, because I really want to have that all together to look back on. That way, if I want to add other things to log throughout the year, I can just add it in. Then what I've been putting into my little weekly spreads are just things I want to remember. I will also put in things that I did that I was proud of myself for doing, like, oh, I actually put away my clothes today. That was a good thing. I will put in things I learned. I don't really understand what everybody else is doing with their weekly spreads. Whenever I watch everybody else's bullet journaling videos, it's like these tiny ass boxes that you could fit a postage stamp into, and I don't really know what you're supposed to do with that. How are they putting tasks in there either? Like how? I can't do that. I need more space. I need way more space than that. I just don't understand. I want to see, but oh no, I just had a thought. What if they are just giving themselves only enough tasks to fit into that small box, and that is how they are taking care of themselves? And maybe that is something I should think about and utilize. I'm going to cover some pages, and then I think we will flip through my first ever bullet journal. It is almost completed. It won't be fully completed until the end of July, but we are very close. And I want to be able to talk about what this experience has done for me, because I really do feel that it has helped me change my life. All right, I guess we'll get into it. So this is my very first bullet journal ever. And I have to admit, part of it was that I was having trouble getting into my passion planner. Since the passion planner is done like a daily schedule with all of the times from like 6:30 until 10:30. First off, I was like, those aren't all the hours in a day. I need more than that because sometimes I don't go to bed till 11 and I wake up at 5, and you know, it was just not the best for me that way. I wanted to have a spot for other information. So the very first bullet journal that I found was this Jumping Fox Design bullet journal. This one is in, I think it's called Satin Purple. It was very pretty. I was super excited about it. I think this color is really nice. I don't know if I'm so much a fan of the kind of metallic sheen it has. I did like this kind of gray and purple ribbon. I think it was meant to be silver, but I like gray. And I like that the pages have shiny on them. I think it was better that it was more on the plain side. So the fact that when we open the first page, it's just plain white, I liked that too. It has these 2 blank pages and then 2 contents pages, which I don't use because I don't think that I would ever be referring to them in that way. Or I might go back once I'm officially done and just put down the pages that I have each month on. So when it started, I wasn't entirely sure what to put in it, so I did mostly just base my trackers off of Amanda Rachel Lee. I did this grid spacing guide because I do think that it was helpful. My quote was, "This year, I'm the butter queen," from My Favorite Murder. And this is what I meant when I was setting up my other one, is that I had my memories page, but it didn't really do anything. And that bums me out too, because then it looks like I have no memories. And I want to have that somewhere. But not having a spot for that makes me not know exactly what day things happened and be able to refer to them, remember them as well. I did a books I read page, and it's not as many as I would have liked, but still. Movies we watched, I kept the movies that I watched that were new, rewatched with either my partner or my daughter, and then shows we watched because I thought that would be fun to have the shows that we got into at this time. I kind of wish I would have done that for 2020, which is why I wanted it for 2021. I made this little self-care sheet so I could give myself a spot to reference. I could see more specifically what areas I was neglecting and what areas I was focusing on. And then I had this goals page, but they were really vague, like work, just earn this much by the end of the month. But I didn't really set up how. My moon cycles page, which I think it was helpful at first maybe, but now I literally just look it up. And I think that the reason this stopped being so helpful of a page is you will see in the future. March, I really liked this black and brown. I didn't want to venture too far out or go too crazy with it because I was just starting, so I didn't want to overwhelm myself with trying to plan something. I have my sleep tracker and my water tracker, and like I said, this is my very first bullet journal, so I was able to see how many 8 ounces, each number 1 is an 8 ounce because I drink out of a jar that is 32 ounces, which is the equivalent of 4 cups. So if I finish 1 jar, then of course that knocks out 4 spots. With my sleep tracker, I could see how this would kind of be paralleled here. It was neat to watch that and see how that was affecting my mood. I did my habit tracker like this at first, which was again the way that I saw other people doing it, where they would have each little month and the habit that they wanted to do. And then I was keeping my full moon and new moon intentions. I didn't want to have to double write my information. I was already putting it in my book of shadows, which is more personal anyway. It was just redundant. So then I had my first social media tracker so that I could observe myself growing on all my Grunge Granny pages. And then this is when I was doing it was 3 things I was excited for. I think going to do, and then work, and then just overall gratitude. I did a card of the day, but then there are days where I just can't do that anymore. Like, my partner says that it makes him get all spinny, and I think that's just real. I was working on trying to do 1,000 cranes in a year, and again, just no time. My weekly focuses stayed the same. I had incoming mail, spot for other things, which ends up becoming my future brain dump, little spots, and my new moon in Pisces. I started doing this from Lavendare, if you ever watch her channels. She does an end of the month reflection with the next month's goals. Since March was such a plain spread, I kept seeing all these other beautiful spreads, and I really wanted to spend more time making a more beautiful spread, which is why I spent so long on April. And I loved the peacock, and it was a reference to the Empress card in the James Eads Cosmovision Tarot. She's kind of a mama, but she's also just a real badass bee, and she takes control over everything, but in a nurturing, caretaking kind of way. And she's very self-aware and in control of herself. Anyway, especially since that is my birth month, but it is also my little brother's birth month, my daughter's birth month, and my birth mother's birth month. So it usually means, since my birthday is at the end of the month, that I end up spending the entire month worried about their birthdays, and then mine comes around and it doesn't really matter anymore. At that point, I'm just like ready for the month to be over. So sleep tracker, it's like a little zigzag almost. Same with the water tracker. It's increasing, then decreasing, increasing, decreasing. This week, the 3rd week of the month, I was in another kind of spiraling hyperfixation to get my sense of value and worth. When I went back and looked at this, I saw, oh, it's because these things are wildly inconsistent. That's why I'm feeling depressed and bonkers. So what happens if I get it down consistently? And then that was the goal, is to figure that out. I kept my habit tracker the same way. Ended up not even filling out that one. And then this was the month that I started posting shorts on YouTube. And then I tried to do some birthday planning. I had my card of the day that I ended up stopping doing because it was starting to get me all spinny. And then something else is my NaPoWriMo tracker. So I made this tracker thinking, I will feel guilty if this poor peacock has sparse feathers, and because I will feel guilty, I will do a NaPoWriMo every day. Then, what I forgot would also be true is that as soon as I started to not do NaPoWriMo and had things I could not fill in, that I would feel guilty coming back to this page, seeing that, and feel really bummed for this poor peacock. Every time I came back to this card of the day, I would see this NaPoWriMo tracker and get real bummed out, and I had to just stop looking at it. All right, and then for my April reflections, I had put April in one word, muchy. Everything got a little bit better, very, very, very slowly. May goals, I had said stabilizing, and then just consistent posting and streamlining and balancing my time. I'm the daddy in this situation. I really feel like May was when things started to change, because I was noticing that with March and April that I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do. This is jokingly, I'm the daddy in this situation, but also was kind of a real time to get strict with myself, time to come at this from a reparenting standpoint and be honest with what I am doing well and what I am failing at, and why am I failing at it. Self-discipline. Really wanted to crack down on the things that I saw that I kept continuously neglecting and kept knowing that I was getting upset with myself for, but just wasn't making those changes. And so that's another way bullet journaling helped me, is that it kind of helped me be real with myself, that I couldn't make excuses anymore because I was tracking these things. I think you could see it happened again. Sleep and water, just continuous, a little zigzag all through May. And we have our habits here in that same little monthly way. My reading was not very good. I did not really meditate. I did start to exercise more, but only because I was in New Orleans. I was walking a lot more because we were there. And decluttering, definitely not, but that's also, again, because I was not really home. You can also see that I just didn't do anything on those days at all. And then I had craft show planning. Things to remember for next time, like, I think I didn't charge things beforehand, and it was a little like, why didn't I charge things? May reflections was chaotic and out of my norm, so I spent the entire June, but a lot of June, making my space better. I purged a lot of stuff, reorganized, and just tried to fix what I had set up as my workspace. I tried to have June's theme be doors. I tried to do watercolor, but I couldn't do too much. When I didn't like the way it looked, I just stopped coming back to it. My sleep tracker for June, most of this was me freaking out about the house and just feeling like I need this stuff out. I cannot do anything. My brain just isn't working. I feel crazy. I feel awful, and I need all this stuff to be out so I can feel better. And that's part of why this was also so hectic and inconsistent, was because it just wasn't even my focus. I just wanted to get rid of stuff. And so I have my little purging planning spot, and then social media tracker, which again, it's like I just didn't even do it because I just couldn't. So habit tracker. Again, I did this one in the little months. And this is when I started to realize how much this bummed me out, because I was decluttering a ton. And I was actually exercising a lot more. But having a little sparse calendar that showed that I had not read it all, or it showed that I hadn't really been meditating, it was weird to be like, oh, this makes me sad, but I did do this, even if I didn't do this. And I needed a way to see more clearly all of it together, which is why July is different. And this is also when I started changing my morning gratitude and amazing things pages, because I did do a morning gratitude and amazing things on my other months, but then because I wasn't looking at it all the time, I don't feel like I was generating those feelings of gratitude, and that's really what I wanted it for, was to fill myself up with gratitude all the time. And once I moved these to these two separate pages, I didn't need the space for those anymore, and I could do a little bit more of what I was going to do, kind of a daily tasks thing in here instead. I said that June was foundational and July will be constructive, as in building systems on that foundation that I was trying to set up in June. Feels kind of like July is the maintenance on the systems that I was working on June to build. Again, water and sleep tracker. I do feel like these are better. I mean, I feel like there's improvement. The sleep is not the best because I've been waking up so early. And so I started writing down when I've been waking up. My habit tracker, this is what I was saying, I think works better. Because something that I noticed was that previously I was looking at a habit as a thing to do in itself. And I don't want my habits to be like that. And I even wrote it here. I was like, I don't want my habits to be work, but a part of my life. I want my habits to be a part of my daily routine. I want them to be a part of my system. Seeing them existing on their own in their little box was seeing them as existing only unto themselves, I suppose, instead of as a part of my day. If I moved it into this little tracker where I could see it all in a day and I could be like, you know, that was a pretty good day, then it made me feel like, yeah, it's not that I'm not doing these habits. It's that I'm very slowly working toward creating a daily routine that will embody all these things just over time. And that's okay. That helps me feel a lot better. And it helps me feel a lot more motivated because then I don't feel awful about it, and then I don't feel like I'm failing. And instead it's, yeah, there is consistent growth. There is consistent improvement and progress happening. It is just happening when it comes to my daily schedule, my gratitude list and my amazing things list for every evening. And then I wanted to solidify a morning routine and an evening routine, which is what was helping me accomplish more things in this habit tracker. And sometimes I'm not doing a lot of this because I started doing morning pages, more detailed journaling. That I think is better for me because I have a lot to say. And with that, I am going to go to the outro and switch cameras because I do want to talk about what I learned in this experience, but a little bit more concisely and clearly. Okay. So now that we've done the flip through, I wanted to explain a little bit more thoroughly that one of the reasons I really liked starting this bullet journal was because I feel like it really did force me to get real with myself. Because a lot of the time my thought is, yeah, if that spread wasn't working, then get rid of it. If you notice that you need help with something else, make up a new spread. If that spread isn't helping you accomplish what you need to accomplish, then think about the way that you're thinking about that task or that goal and modify the spread so that it helps you more. Also, maybe some people aren't super visual, and if they aren't, then that's okay too. Or maybe they aren't very tactile. I know that I try very hard to always use apps. I always believe that they're going to be more beneficial or more productive, but they end up just not. Not for me. I need a visual, tactile thing to work with. I need to be able to touch it and move it and draw on it and put a post-it note on it and use a clip so that I can know where to go. I have a much more physical and emotional memory than visual memory. So things for me very much have to be tactile. I will not remember in my head where did I put that information in Notion, but I will remember in my head to just run my fingers along the side of my journal and flip it open to wherever I feel either the paper post-it or this kind of clip. I think that that is also an important thing that I learned was, oh, I would feel guilty for not moving this information there and not utilizing an app better. But that's also not how my brain works, and that's okay. It's just also just knowing what kind of things are you more attracted to, what kind of things draw you in more, Out of the first 5 months for my very first bullet journal, what I realized, things I learned. Number one was that keeping it simple helps me not feel pressured, as we could see from the peacock page and the NaPoWriMo, that even if it was beautiful, it did not mean that I was actually going to do that spread. I needed spreads that I was actually going to go back to, and I think had I just added it into my habit tracker as a little calendar, that I might have gone back to doing NaPoWriMo, but because I knew that if I didn't do a couple days, that it was going to have those poor little sparse feathers, felt too bad. I just wasn't going to do it. That I much more prefer doing a nice decorated cover because I like my covers to be nice, and I like the colors of that month to fit the cover, but I don't like heavily ornate spreads. I like much more space to write, so I'm not going to do any little boxes for things because I don't understand how anyone fits any information in those. I just want to bring it up again that the habit tracker, I've heard a lot of people say that habit trackers don't work for them, and I am noticing that the habit tracker works for me when I switched the format, when it is not done as separate little months with all the little habits existing on their own. I know that for some people it helps them to see something as just existing on its own because it feels maybe less daunting for them. And I think that that is good for some people, and I think it was good for me at the beginning. I don't think that I was ready to really face the fact that I needed to have a lifestyle change. I don't think I was ready to admit to myself that if I realistically wanted to do these things, that my whole day needed to change. And it does. So switching that into this is not just a habit tracker. This is a daily routine tracker. Am I doing these things as a part of my daily routine? Are they getting integrated as a part of my daily routine because I want these to be a part of my lifestyle and my identity just overall in the future? I want to be regularly cleaning, regularly decluttering, finding time to read, to meditate. I don't want to hit snooze. and I want to have time to exercise every single day. Those are not crazy things. I don't care if I only do 5 minutes of each of them. I could do 5 minutes of meditating and 5 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of cleaning, and then 5 minutes of decluttering. And that would knock everything out in 20 minutes. That's fine. But the fact that I don't even fit in 5 minutes of some of those things is ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's preposterous. And it's one of those little reality checks where I had to say to myself, like, what are you doing with your time? But it's a thing that I have to do with myself. Like, I look at my tracker and I think, I've gone days without reading. And I know it's because, one, I prefer audiobooks because I can listen to them as I craft, and I like that a lot. And the other is that I'm just not making the time for it. If I want this to be a part of my lifestyle, I cannot remember a day in my childhood that I was not reading. I used to think that I would end up with telekinetic powers if I read every single book in the library because I saw Matilda, and I was convinced that that was how she got her telekinesis. And so I tried to read every single book in the library. I just haven't lately because I just haven't made that time, and I want to. The other thing, switching the daily gratitude to where it wasn't something that I could see just for that day, but have the overall month at a glance of all the things that I was grateful for every single morning and every evening was also really beneficial for me. And I think that's another example of sometimes a spread doesn't work, sometimes your plan doesn't work, then change it. Find what will help you do the thing. Well, if you're noticing that you're trying to cultivate a gratitude practice and it's not working for you, then find a different way to be accountable to it and see if that way helps you cultivate more gratitude. And if it does, then, problem solved. And if it doesn't, then maybe something else needs to happen. I started a Facebook group where we would all just post our 10 things we were grateful for every single day as a way for us to all be accountable to each other. It was really nice. It was helpful. Once I started YouTube, I noticed that I needed to figure out how many hours a week I was spending editing because I wasn't sure. So I did add that element to my social media tracker because how much time do I realistically have? And do I need to speed up this process? It's a good way for me to be able to track my personal workflow. So I've added that to my social media tracker, and if you're doing YouTube, then maybe that might be helpful too. Ultimately, one of the best things that starting a bullet journal helped me with was setting aside time in the mornings and the evenings to go back and reflect on certain aspects of my life every morning and every evening. And then in my weekly spread, sometimes what I'll do is I'll put something I learned or I heard from a video or a podcast, be like, that was really cool, and I want to make note of it, so I'll put that there. Or if something else happened, just like, Kagan and I had a really cool conversation about this, or Lizzie and I had a cool conversation about this today, and I'll put those in there, and I think that that's nice. It just becomes a more free place where I don't feel pressured to have to fill it with a certain kind of information. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I know this video is already really long. I just wanted to go ahead and make it and give a really honest perspective on how I feel like bullet journaling has helped my mental health a ton. It has helped me be more honest and real with myself, more self-aware about my routines and my practices, and has made me shift the way I was seeing certain goals or habits that I wanted to integrate into my life and be able to apply it to a day-to-day mentality. I think it is helping me get a lot better. I think that self-awareness is really important. And even though I've always tried to be very self-aware, it's hard to be self-aware about things that you literally do not remember. If you cannot remember how much water you drank, then you don't know if you're well hydrated. If you cannot remember how much you slept, then you don't know how much average sleep you're getting. I know the ones that I think work the best is definitely my sleep and water tracker. I really like seeing how they correlate side by side, and I'm not going to change it. I'm going to keep my habit tracker for now the way that it is. I like my amazing things and gratitude spread, except for the fact that I feel like everything is really scrunched in. So what I might do in the future is give myself more room overall and give myself a full 2-page spread for my morning gratitude and then a full 2-page spread for my evening gratitude. It will still give me the opportunity to reflect on the previous days and see all the things that I'm grateful for to continue working toward cultivating a grander sense of gratitude while not trying to shove it all into a tiny line of space, because that's silly. And sometimes I want to be able to muse on all the things that I'm super grateful for. I want to spend more time on it. I want to spend more time really thinking about it and giving it appreciation, and maybe I just need more space. I think I'm getting too rambly. I'm just gonna cut myself off and say thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.